welcome. I did it. I'm live. I'm live. I'm live. Hello, 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 and welcome. Come on into the room. This is only my second time to go live on YouTube, but it's already so much better than going live on Instagram. Oh, something's on my shirt. Everybody come on in. And I hope y'all got questions too. I mean, I got information, but I hope y'all got questions because it makes the process better when I answer questions like I did at Natural today. Hope y'all join Natural. So I can see that there's people on, but unless you put in the chat and say hi, I don't know who you are. I don't think I can see those different type of things. So go ahead if you're joining, say hi in the chat so that I can acknowledge you all. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get started because it's been a very long day. I'm about to lose my voice. And this live is the only thing between me and a mini vacation. So I want to go ahead and get started for today. My name is CHW Umemba. Welcome to the live Q&A session. For those of you that don't know me, I am the CEO and founder of Umemba Health, LLC, which is a public health education and consulting agency. Probably what we're most known for with Umemba Health is providing education and training for community health workers and community health worker instructors as well. We started doing continuing education for CHWs about a year ago. And then in February of this year, we actually started providing certification programs where we actually certify individuals who are interested in becoming CHWs as well as CHW instructors. And so I'm having this live Q&A, one, because I tend to have like an open house type of event or session a few weeks prior to the launch of a new cohort anyway. And then also I want to test out the live function with YouTube here to see if it's something that I want to continue to use in the future. So I'm not going to spend that much time talking about what a community health worker is. Okay, there's videos that I have created and workshops that I've done. And you can certainly visit umembahealthacademy.com and enroll for the free CHW information session to find out more information about being a community health worker. So I'm not going to talk about that unless there's a question that's asked specifically about CHWs. The whole purpose of the live tonight is to talk about the CHW Instructor program, which does start August the 12th and goes through November the 18th because it is the last program of the year. As a matter of fact, we're already in our last program or last cohort of our CHW program. So, of course, I'll talk to you about ours and hope that you come to our program as well. But I'll talk to you about being a CHW instructor just in general. I'll give you the good, bad, and ugly. I'll give you my experience. We'll talk a little bit about the job outlook. I've got some kind of scripted notes here that I usually go through with the open house. But again, like I said, if there are questions, it's a lot better because I can answer any burning questions or lingering questions that you've always wanted to know about being a CHWI. So again, I don't know who you are unless you say hello in the chat. Say hello in the chat so that I can acknowledge you. And I'll go ahead and get started. So let me pull up my notes here so I can make sure that I don't forget anything. Again, my name is CHW Umemba. I'm CEO and founder of Umemba Health. Again, thank you so much for coming tonight. If you don't know, Umemba Health is located in Austin, Texas. So we are an approved provider of community health worker and community health worker instructor, continuing education and certification. And so in the state of Texas, that credential or that certification is overseen by the Texas Department of State Health Services. And I know a lot of states are not that far yet. Sorry, I was eating popcorn before this started and a kernel came up. A lot of programs are not that far yet, but we do have a credentialing process that is overseen by the Texas Department of State Health Services. In the state of Texas, whether it's a CHW program or it's a community health worker instructor program, the program has to be 160 hours. And so our program is 160 hours. And we are entitled to cover the 8 core competencies. So in the state of Texas, there are 8 core competencies that we teach to: communication skills, interpersonal skills, service coordination skills, capacity building skills, advocacy skills, teaching skills, organizational skills, and knowledge-based skills. And so the way that the programs work is you spend about 20 hours in each of those skills making sure that you get the experience and education that you need around each of those competencies. Our particular program is 15 weeks. Actually, the time frame is always 16 weeks because I put an extra week in there in case individuals need to catch up. And most people want to know what it costs, so I'll just tell you what it costs right now. The program is $1,200 for the 15-week program, 100% virtual, all online. And so a lot of people tend to have a problem with that $1,200 fee, but I know what it will get you once you're certified, and the same thing with being a community health worker as well. And so ultimately, when you're considering getting a certification or a degree or any kind of continuing education, $1,200 is actually a drop in the bucket compared to what you're going to get in the long run, because it makes you more marketable and you have another certification under your belt. One thing that I will say, and why I'm a big proponent of the CHW Instructor certification, is one, they're not in every state, very few states. It's probably less than 3 have a formal community health worker instructor certification. So again, that's already going to set you above. And also, if you are interested in being an educator of any type, an instructor or facilitator of any type, then you certainly will get the experience to do that in our particular program. So I do believe that anyone that does any type of work in the medical or public health field should specialize, right? There's nothing wrong with generalizing. Most people do generalize to get that initial experience, but I do think that there are riches in the niches, so to speak. And so our CHW program focuses on clinical integration, but our community health worker instructor certification focuses on virtual instructor-led training. You may have seen this abbreviated as VILT, or maybe ILT, meaning instructor-led training. So a lot of people ask me, well, what does that mean? You know, if you're focusing on VILT, virtual instructor-led training, well, that means a lot of things. We do review the core competencies. Of course, we have to teach you that. And I want you as a student instructor to be able to master the core competencies, right? Because you got to be able to know it well enough to teach somebody else. But we also understand that in this day and age, it is so important that you are able to capture an audience, basically pull somebody through the screen and keep them engaged long enough for you to get your information and your point across. And then they need to be able to take that information, take those skills, that knowledge, and replicate it in the real world. And that takes a certain type of skill. And so we do focus on content and curriculum development, content design. We talk about the difference between learning outcomes versus learning objectives, right? We talk about how you can design your presentations for maximum engagement. I'm a big proponent of using every single bell and whistle that is on your platform. And so I personally use Zoom and I use Microsoft Teams, but I do encourage my students to practice on every single platform. For instance, the presentation that I had today at the National Association of Community Health Workers used to GoToWebinar platform. I absolutely hate GoToWebinar. However, being an instructor or presenter or educator of any type, you never know what setting you're going to be in and the platform that you're going to need to use. So you need to be familiar or comfortable with any of those platforms. You need to know what are the bells and whistles, right? Are there whiteboards with the platform? Are there, of course, there's going to be chat, there's going to be questions. What is the annotation or the stamping feature? How do you use that to engage your students? So we do a lot of we spend a lot of time really looking at and designing and developing our programs for maximum engagement. I do teach my students about the different types of technology and interaction tools. We go over facilitation best practices, right? So questioning and what that looks like, because it sounds simple, but there's certain ways that you can question your students, right? It's just like when you're questioning your patient during motivational interviewing. There's sometimes where you want an open-ended question. There's sometimes when you want a closed-ended question. There's sometimes when you want to use silence. And so you have to incorporate a pregnant pause, which I'm not the best at doing, but I do realize that there's a major benefit for giving your students some time to think about the question that you ask them or whatever is on the screen in front of them. We practice things like how to break out into the breakout room, right? There's a lot of practice, a lot of coaching, a lot of feedback I'm going forward. I think I did about maybe 5 or 6 student presentations. Going forward, I know I'm only going to be doing 4 presentations. And so 3 of those student presentations throughout the 15 weeks you will know about. 1 of them you will not know about, because I do test my instructor's ability to be able to speak like I'm speaking now, impromptu, basically on the top of their head. And so I may give you a topic that you know nothing about, or I may give you a topic that you know a little bit about. And what I want to know is, are you going to be able to keep your cool? Are you going to be able to still articulate your words? Are you going to be able to get your audience engaged and get your students engaged in the learning process, even on a topic that you're not necessarily prepared to teach or that you know a lot about? Okay, so that's what you should expect from that. So in order to apply for the program, there's really only a couple of things that you need. A lot of people think that you have to be a CHW before you can be a community health worker instructor. That is not a requirement in the state of Texas. As a matter of fact, I never was a CHW by, that was never my title. I'll put it like that. I've been a CHW probably since I was 16, 18 years old, just by another name, right? CHWs always go by another name, but I was a community volunteer and did a whole bunch of things before I even became a nurse. But I applied directly to become a community health worker instructor and became one. So let me talk about that for those of you that might be watching now or maybe watching later that live in Texas. There are a couple of ways that you can become a CHW instructor. And this doesn't necessarily apply to everywhere. This is Texas, and I can open up the floor and talk about other places here in a little bit. But here in the state of Texas, if you want to become a community health worker or a community health worker instructor, you can either apply based on your experience, which is what I did, or you can apply based on going to an educational program. Like you come to Umemba Health, you go through our program, you get your certificate, and then you go and you do your application. It is free, regardless of which one that you want to right now. It's completely free to apply. And if you choose to apply like I did based on experience, you have to have about 1,000 hours in community health work related activities. And as an instructor, you have to have about 1,000 hours teaching CHWs in the last couple of years, both for CHWs and CHWI. Your hours have to be in the last couple of hours. And they have to be verifiable hours, meaning that you have to have your immediate supervisor sign a document saying that they do verify that you actually have those hours, and that's how you apply. So just a moment of transparency. I actually tried to apply to be a CHW instructor 3 times and was denied twice before I was awarded that certification, because I relocated from Arkansas, where most of my clinical, volunteer, all of that stuff, all of my CHW related work was done, and then moved to Houston, Texas. And the supervisor that I had at the time, she said she couldn't verify it. And, you know, when I volunteered for the Red Cross and I volunteered for some other organizations, those places had high turnover. So they were not able to contact the supervisor that was there at the same time that I was there to actually verify that I did those hours. So it took a while for me to get it. I just want to let you know that those are the two ways that in the state of Texas that you can become a CHW instructor. Now, like I said, most states do not have a CHW instructor program. They probably have positions available, but for the most part, most states do not have a CHW program. If there's any questions about that, then again, go ahead and put in the chat and let me know if you have a question about that, and we can talk about it. Another thing you should be aware of if you decide to join our program or any program in the state of Texas is that we are required to ask our students to complete field experience hours. Field experience is an opportunity for you to apply your knowledge that's gained in the classroom, right? The virtual classroom with supervised practice in the field. This is very much like an internship or an externship or whatever you want to call it. For my program, I will take volunteering in a medical, public health, or educational setting. And if you are working, you can accumulate your hours that way. And so most of my students are either working already as a CHW or maybe a medical assistant or even a nurse or a social worker or something like that. And so those hours, as long as they're in the CHW realm, are applicable to get those hours. The bylaws for CHW programs don't specify the number of hours. That really is set by each program. To date, I have set my field experience hours at 64 hours. That may change in the future, but as for right now, I think 64 is a good number for experience and people being exposed to the profession if they're not previously exposed to the profession. So what are some things that you'll need to be successful if you do decide to be a CHW instructor at Umemba Health? We do have a textbook. Matter of fact, I have it right here. I think every CHW program just about has this. This is like the CHW Bible. I think there has been a couple of other CHW programs in the last year that have written books, but we teach out of Foundations for Community Health Workers, the second edition. That popcorn is trying to kill me. So you will have to purchase that book. It is not included in your tuition anymore. I purchased them off of Amazon, 2-day shipping, because I'm very impatient, and I usually pay around $90 for mine. Of course, you're going to have stable internet connection. You're going to have pen and paper, something to write on. And if you're the type of person that doesn't like to read on screen a lot, then of course a printer is going to be optional. You'll have your book, so any of your reading assignments will come from there. I really don't give out too much that you'll have to print off, but in the event that you are like me, a printer is optional for you to have. Okay, so what can you expect? What we utilize at Umemba Health is something called a flipped classroom. So basically, that is a methodology that says we're going to teach you a topic or a subject. You're going to read about that topic or subject, and you may even have some required homework assignment that goes with that topic, but you're going to do that on your own time before you come to class and have us talk about it. And I'll kind of give you an example of what this looks like. Tuesday night, the CHW students, we were talking about, we're on communication skills week 3. No, we're on week 4, organizational skills. But for week 3, communication skills, prior to the live session, they had required reading. They had some questions they had to answer. And they had about 6 or 8 videos that they had to watch of CHW interactions. And they also have to respond to what went wrong in this scenario, what went right in this scenario. If you were the CHW, what would you do differently? And so the reason that they had to watch those videos and provide those responses is because in the live class, I try my best not to spend as much time PowerPointing to death, because I want to use this opportunity now to apply what you've learned. So we had role playing, we had a 3-part case scenario that took about 90 minutes for us to get through. We're talking about things that they're going to see when they get out in the real world, and it helps them understand how they should be interacting with and communicating with the patient. So that's what I mean when I say we utilize a flipped classroom methodology. I want to spend as much time during our time together to really concentrate on what makes the most sense. So you're going to be expected to do your reading and all of your assignments and all of that stuff in your own time before class. You will always get the material before we talk about it. So you will get it. It will seem like it's backwards, and it does take a while to get it, but it makes the most sense, and it actually is probably the best way to learn. Okay, what else? Back to eligibility, I want to make sure, because I'm pulling up my notes now, that I did say, in addition to, not having to be a CHW before you can apply to be a CHW instructor, you do have to be 18 years old, whether you're in state or out of state, and you do have to complete the online application. So you can go to umembahealth.com or umembahealthacademy.com. I've got a link to the application on both pages. For students that live outside of the state of Texas that are watching, you're probably like, well, can I still go to the program? Absolutely. It would be no different than, I live in Texas. Let's say I wanted to go to school at University of Florida. The degree that I get would still be applicable, right? So I have a student that was in my last CHW cohort that lived in Miami. I have a couple of students that lived Minneapolis, Minnesota. I have students that live in New York. I have students all over. And so what I do for anybody that applies is, and that's why I have people complete the application, is I go online to see where you live, because I am pretty well versed with what most states are doing. And I want to make sure that before you come to my program, that there's not some specifications that you have to adhere to in your state. For instance, In the state of Ohio, community health worker certification and licensure there is overseen by the Ohio Board of Nursing. And if that's the case, I will tell the applicant, I would recommend you go to a program there because there is a stricter certification process there than there is, let's say, maybe for Florida. Because I know even though Florida has a certification process, my student was able to use the Umemba Health program to sit for her exam to be certified in Florida. So, and certification, I mean, examination doesn't apply to all states either. Just some states do that. So again, it's a case-by-case basis. You can shoot me an email if you have a question about it. You can look up your state as well. I would recommend going to the NACHWA website, National Association of Community Health Workers, NACHW.org. You can go to, I think it's state by state agencies, or even just Google whatever your state is, Community Health Worker Association, or whatever your state is, Community Health Worker Certification, and you probably be able to find all of the information there. I will say, because this is a Texas, because we are located in Texas, that priority is given to residents in the state of Texas. So just be mindful of that as well. Speaking of priority, I guess this is a good time to say that I do only take 15 individuals per cohort. This is best when you're providing any kind of virtual instructor-led training. And because we are really getting into a lot of case-based scenarios, role-playing, some heavy conversations at times, the cohort cannot be too big or the classes would be too long. So 15 participants is all that I take ever at one time, and probably all that I ever will do as long as we're in a virtual environment. Expectations from you as a participant, if you join the program, all the trainings will begin and end on time. Some of them will be Zoom, some of them will be Teams, just to get you familiar with two of the most common platforms. I do record them. Now, I don't share any recording that has your face on it, but I do record them because if you happen to miss a session, in order to count for attendance, you have to go back and actually watch that recording. So if you arrive after the training has started, you are allowed to enter the training, but you have to watch the recording of any instruction that you missed. You must attend all of the classes or watch the session recording to receive the credit for the day. I think I said that, but I just wanted to make sure that people understood that. Another thing I do have or mandate is even in my training policy that or agreement that you'll have to sign, that you keep your camera on. Now, I'm not a stickler for it, right? If you're eating, you just got off work, you're hungry, turn your camera off. Don't make me hungry. We don't want to see you eat. If your honey comes by and smooches you, I have a student right now that she's going to laugh when I tell her about this. But when her husband comes home every day, he comes and he gives her a smooch, and I love it. I love it to death. But if you want to turn off your camera when your kids or your husband come into the background, that's fine. If you want to take a bio break, use the bathroom, then certainly turn off your camera. But as an instructor, as the facilitator, I can't see when you're zoned out if your camera is out. I can't see when your eyes are glazed over. I can't see if you're getting the information that I'm sharing with you. And so I need to be able to see your eyes and your nonverbal communication and your body language. And then you also want to give the same respect to your peers that are going to be teaching as well. So I do require that you keep your camera on. Okay, almost done here. Ooh, hopefully 5 more minutes. So I would encourage you, apply the sooner the better. That way you can get your textbook emailed. I'll send you an email from Umemba Health Academy, which I'm going to give you a quick demonstration on to so you will be able to log in and get settled in with that. I do have an employer ask toolkit as well. So in that employer ask toolkit, it's like a letter, it's terminology, it's language that you can use to basically explain the benefits and justify the expense of the training if you want to get your employer to pay for it. So it's like a sales sheet, a purchase order process, a script, like I said, for emails or for in-person meetings. So if that's something that you're interested in, it's on the website, umembahealth.com, under resources, and you can certainly email me if you have any questions about that as well. Let's do Umemba Health Academy now. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not on a Zoom. Can I share my screen? Oh, Lord, I don't know. I thought I could. Okay, so I know now if I do a live, I won't be able to share my screen, but luckily I have a video already that I send to my students enrolled. that gives them a behind the scenes look so they know what to expect. So I'll just upload that in a YouTube video as well. So still got a few people on. If there's any questions, now is the opportunity for you to put that question into the chat box. I think I do have this turned to where only subscribers can ask a question. And it says you must be a subscriber for at least a minute. So if you're not a subscriber to YouTube, you'll have to send me an email. My email is admin, ADMIN, at umembahealth.com. And let me make sure there is nothing. Let me go through this and make sure there is nothing else that I wanted to share with you all tonight. I told you what you need to be successful. I told you about the requirements. I told you about the VILT training, instructor-led training, the competencies, the overview of the program. I told you who I was and what I do. I hope this has been informative for you. Again, if there are questions, please put them underneath the recording of this video or any of our other social media platforms. And of course, you can always email me as well. This has been great. I actually like this live better than Instagram, but I think that's it. Y'all have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. And if I don't see you at Umemba Health Academy, I hope I see you around, period. Good luck to you and best of luck in your future.